You've gone through many, many trials and tribulations to get to where you are now. Talk to us about your story and where you came from.
It dates back to when I was a younger kid, and essentially growing up, I was never really good academically at school. Mainly for me, I went to school to see my friends. I was very social, and I purely just loved footy. So dating back then, I've always just gone through school not really knowing what I want to do long term, but it always came back to footy, and that was like the envisionment for me. I knew that I wanted to make it real big as an NRL star, and just being able to have the freedom to live the life that I wanted. And I felt like that route was going to be through footy for me. Now, finishing high school, that didn't really happen as I expected. And it's almost like the Gold Coast shoot changed for me, where I had a real pivotal moment when I was 15, and I'd finally made it to a semi-reputable stage with football. And I'd gotten to a stage where I made it onto the Australian schoolboys football team, which was like a massive thing for me. Like being from a kid from Newcastle, and I finally got a chance to play in front of like NRL scouts. Massive. So for me, this is huge. For my dad, this is huge. This is how we bonded through footy. So that was a massive thing for me. And it came to a point where I had a really good game, and it was pretty cool to see. But I got approached and had an opportunity to actually move away from home, from my hometown, from my family, from my friends. And this was the first moment that I had experienced choice and the decision to make a change in my life that was going to dramatically actually change, moving away from my family, moving away from my friends. And when it came down to it, I couldn't make that decision. I couldn't move away from my family, my friends, and take that uncomfortable route. As a 15-year-old kid, that's a big decision to make. And back then it was too scary. It was too fearful. And that was my first experience with actually going down a scary road and having to make a massive life decision that would impact potentially the rest of my life.
Your journey has been entangled with fear. Talk to us about your experience there.
Similarly to when I was growing up, I had a lot of self-doubt. Fear was really entangled in my journey as a whole. And it first started off with that story I was telling before. That was my first real moment of fear of failure, that if I made that choice to chase that dream, and if I failed, what my life looked like then. And that was a scary reality for me to really come to terms with. Once I actually had got past that, I had to sort of shift the goalposts into something else. That dream, the vision, the drive that I had for footy, what was something that was going to make me money? And that's when I had my first experience with my first full-time job. And that was being a real estate agent, which was something very far from me and my personality, putting myself out there and everything like that for myself. Like, I'm just, in my eyes, I was always just a kid from Nui. I have a Polynesian background. My mother's fully Tongan and my dad's Australian. So being a real estate agent really isn't a choice or an opportunity that many Tongans go down. So I was super fearful of that and even venturing down that route. But I saw an opportunity and it was something that I took. After school, I didn't want to go to uni. I did. I defaulted to that like a lot of other people do, purely for the fact that I didn't know where I wanted my life to go. I didn't have a clear direction, and I was scared. Like that was something that was very fearful for me, was the unknown. So I went into real estate, and funnily enough, I actually did that for 3 years. The first day on the job and the first week was literally cold calling. I'd never called someone in my life other than my mates, my family, and that was super casual, right? So even just remembering back to that first week on the job, I remember the first thing that they said to me was like, here's this phone book and here's a phone. And I said, just start dialing. I thought to myself, what do you mean? So essentially from there, my first week was literally just hitting the phones, asking random people I didn't know to book in a house appraisal with us. And this was a crazy full circle moment of a kid that went from like mucking around at school and playing footy to literally being on a phone call with these random people I had no idea who were. And I didn't even know why they should have booked a call with me or booked a house appraisal. And I remember distinctively 3 days in, I went home and, you know, I was 19 at the time. I had a suit that was I had a suit that was way too big on me and that I was drowning in. And I went home that day after the third day and I said to my mum and my dad, I said, hey, I think I'm going to quit, which is something that I've always done a lot in my childhood. When things got hard, I would give up. Other than footy. Footy was the only one that I didn't really give up in. But what I did was I said this to them and it made it really real that I was going to give up in this moment. And their response was just like, we love you and we're proud of you and we know you'll figure it out. If this is something that you want to stay with, awesome. But if not, you'll figure something out. And there's always uni down the corner, so you can always go back to uni. And in that moment, I was like, I'm not going back to uni. I know that for sure. And it was a bit of a moment for me where I started thinking about all the things that I'd given up on that I hadn't fully tried and that I left so much potential on the table. So I decided, you know what, I'm not going to quit this time and I'm just going to stick it out and see how it goes. Fast forward, I stayed in real estate for 3 years. I had a really great journey there and it taught me everything and all the basis of what I know now. But the main thing that it taught me was resilience and to push through those hard times and to always take the path of most resistance, which is something that now in the online business space has been a massive factor in terms of the mentality that I've taken away from that. And even just to sort of touch back on how I got into the online business space, it's a bit of a funny story. When I was in real estate, about 2 years in, I used to get all these marketing emails about how we could improve your Facebook, how we could improve your Instagram, get you more leads, all that junk, right? And I used to always read the first line and it'd be like a real chunky email, just full of shit. And I just delete it straight away, straight into the trash. There was one day, and it was a Wednesday, I believe. This was a Pibblemo. It was a Wednesday. And it was early in the morning. I was going through my emails and I saw one from another marketing agency. And this one was a little bit different. The text was short, but it had a Loom video at the end talking about how I could improve my Facebook and just pretty much ripping apart what I had there and why I wasn't getting more leads. And instantly I thought, hey, this guy's correct. So I was like, I must speak to him because there was something that stood out. It was personalized to myself. So I got straight on and he had like a booking link there. I booked a call. What I got from that call was I met this guy. His name was Shay and he was from Melbourne and he was doing this marketing agency and his niche was real estate agents. So essentially what I was. We spoke for a while. We had a really good conversation. He was a young guy as well, a couple years older than me. And we really connected. Although I didn't buy at the time, I didn't buy into his services because my mind was already half out of real estate. I wanted to try a new chapter in something. I just didn't know what it was yet. I didn't commit to his marketing services, but we stayed in contact. I got his Instagram, those sorts of things. And we just stayed in contact. You know, it's not like I was mates with him or anything like that. He was just a random guy from Melbourne that I had his Instagram. Fast forward a year later, you know, we'd been chatting from time to time, nothing crazy. We'd just reply some gym stories of each other and, you know, just the classic sort of bro stuff. And I see he makes this massive Instagram post. And it was about him getting into this high ticket sales and pretty much he'd just gone through this crazy breakup, a long-term girlfriend, And he was moving all the way from Melbourne, Australia, had sold all his things and was now going to Argentina. And I remember I was laying in bed that night and I looked at the story, and at that period of my life, I was really lost. I was about to get out of real estate. I was just going through this massive change and feeling like there was a piece of the puzzle missing in my life, which was actually fulfillment. And seeing this post from this guy that I barely knew, that I met over Zoom, about him taking a chance and taking this huge risk and selling all of his things, moving halfway across the world, I thought, holy shit, like, how has he done that? Like, I need to speak to this guy once again. So I remember replying and just saying like something simple like, yo, what is high ticket sales, dude? And he gave me a bit of a brief of what essentially he does and what it is. And I said, dude, like, I'd crush this, man. I'm a real estate agent. Like, I was super cocky back then. I said, bro, I'd crush this. Like, just let me know how to get in. Like, drop me the source. And he sent me this group. It was a group where you could find roles and they'd actually come towards you. And the only thing was, it was paid, right? You had to invest, I think it was $299 USD back then. And he sent me the link to actually join it. And he said, just let me know once you've joined and pop in like a welcome message. From there, as soon as I saw that it was paid, instantly, that fear of investing into myself, something that I've never even done before, it just hit me. And my instant message was, yeah, sweet, bro. I'll just like fix that up soon. No stress. Time goes by. Maybe like 4 months later, I'd actually left real estate. I took that risk and left real estate and chased somewhat more of a passion. And that was in the fitness industry. And 4 months later, a couple months down the line, I get a message from Shay again. He's killing it in this high ticket sales stuff. He's recreated his whole life around in Argentina. And the message said, have you joined yet? Pretty simple, pretty plain. I remember thinking in my mind, shit, when am I going to tell this guy I haven't joined yet? So I made up something. I said, I'll join soon, bro. Like, just going through some stuff, blah, blah, blah. All good. 2 weeks later after that, he messages me again. Hey, haven't seen your welcome message yet. What's going on? And I gave him another petty excuse. And at the time, I just didn't want it. I was too scared. I was too fearful. I was letting that I was allowing it to dictate what I wanted in life. And from there, he sent me a voice note that has stuck to me to this day. And essentially said, yo, don't even worry about joining high ticket sales and the group, because if you can't invest $299 into yourself, you would never fucking make it. When I listened to that voice note, I literally just sat there. And the thing that hurt the most about all this is that it was so fucking true. And that's what hurt. I knew that he was right in the moment. I knew that I will never make it in online business, in anything, and create the lifestyle that I wanted if I couldn't even invest into myself. And that hit me really hard. So what I did, so scared, so nervous, I grabbed my card. And this is such a funny moment because the fact is I never invested in myself before. I was incredibly scared. I was incredibly skeptical about this industry, but I was in so much pain internally that I needed to make change. So I grabbed my card. I actually transferred the money, exact amount that I needed, from my normal bank account to a card that I never use, just in case I got scammed, just in case my card details got leaked on the internet. Like, I didn't even know what was happening, but I knew that I was going on this journey. I knew that I was committing to change in that moment, but I was still nervous as fuck. So I had to do that just to soften the blow a little bit. But I made that investment, and that's where things really changed around.
You've talked a lot about the come up, where things started, where you first crossed that bridge to take that leap of faith. Tell us about what happened after that and how you got to such a crazy point in your life, traveling the world, having all of this success in such a short period of time. Tell us about not only how it happened, but what the challenges were throughout that as well.
I think along the journey, there's been so many wins. There's been so many lessons. And one of the biggest things I took away that helped me get to the stage that I'm at now was learning how to sit in the trenches, how to enjoy the grind period, the struggle period. It's something that I never really enjoyed in real estate. I always wanted that balance and everything like that, the lifestyle balance. But what I hadn't truly done is tested myself on how hard I could work or the level that I can push myself to when wanting something so bad. So yeah, I'm at a stage right now where I can do a lot of the things that I couldn't do before, that I have the freedom, the locational freedom to have an opportunity to live in Bali away from Australia with a bunch of mates that are on the same mission, the same pathway as what I look towards. And like, that's pretty pure in itself. I think freedom comes down to a lot of things for a lot of different people. For me, freedom comes down to two aspects. One, being able to move around freely, funnily enough, being able to live in a location that you want, being able to move around. I think the second one is being able to put yourself into positions and networking groups that allow you to progress. I find that as freedom too, because I felt very stuck in Australia, very trapped in the social circle, in the setting, everything like that. And I never had a group of people around me that was so like-minded like I do now. So to run it back through all the tough times, through all the trenches moments, I look back at it and I'm so grateful that I put in 12 months, 13 months of just hard, dedicated work, and that I had the people around me to push me to levels that I've never been before. I take a lot of my testament to the mentor that I had early on in my online business journey. He pushed me to levels that I never even thought were possible. And his guidance and support was really massive along this journey to help me get to this stage and to really unlock my full potential. And another aspect that comes into mind is the people that you surround yourself with. So the people that I surround myself with now, they all push me to different lengths. And it's not just about a business sense. It's not just about a money sense, like that, all that shit's good and whatnot, but it's about the person that you become on the journey and the identity that you form through the brotherhood around you. And it's not like you do it alone, because I see a lot of entrepreneurs doing stuff alone and just grinding away in their bedroom. And yes, that's part of the journey. I 100% agree with that, but it's also about being surrounded with boys and a community that have the same vision in mind, that have the same vision, not just business-wise, but fitness-wise, like in terms of growing your socials, in terms of everything, and in terms of leveling up your identity and having a group of boys around you that are going to hold you to that higher standard. I think that's been a very fundamental part of my journey as a whole from the last 12 months.
After you took that original leap of faith and made that commitment on yourself, despite of how fearful and how scared you were, you got to a stage where you were making an income very, very quickly. Most people go through many, many months, even years before they get to that stage. Talk to us about how that actually happened and what unfolded in between that time period.
Touching back up on, I guess, the fear that I had. Although I was so scared, I knew internally that change was the only way that I was going to live the lifestyle that I wanted or make steps towards it. Before I'd even landed a role in the high ticket sales industry, I left my job. I went all in. I bought into this group. I put money on the line, but after that, like once my mind is made up and I'm going to do something, I do it 110%. So I didn't wait to get a part-time role and sort of ease my way into this sales online industry or this business industry. I just said, fuck it, I'm going all in. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work, but at least I know that, right? So I left my job. I bought into this community, and then within 4 weeks of actually being in there, I landed my first interview for a sales role. And one interview, one take, one done. I landed the role, which was unreal. It was super surreal. And then from there, it started my journey into the high ticket sales industry. And what I didn't realize was the grind that was going to come with it. So coming from a real estate background and doing quite well in Newcastle, I was very, very confident in myself in an arrogant way. And that completely switched up in the first month of me being on this new offer, this new role, of being alongside guys that were more hungry than me, that wanted it more. I remember the very first week on, I didn't work the weekend purely because I was still in a 9-to-5 mindset and I hadn't been able to switch that over just yet. And what happened was everyone worked on the weekend and I was the only guy, the new guy that didn't work on the weekend. And instantly I realized, fuck, I'm in for a ride here. These boys are dogs and I need to rise to their standards. Otherwise I'll get left behind. And it was one thing that my mentor actually said to me when I first got an interview with him. He said that you'll rise to the standards of the people around you, but you need to exceed them. So yes, it's good to rise, but you need to actually exceed those standards and continue growing. And that's exactly what I did. So the first month was really rough. I grinded so hard, but I wasn't making any traction. My calls were not great. And all the boys can attest to this. My first role play was one of the worst things that probably anyone has ever seen in a sales aspect. Firstly, I came from real estate, so I was cocky that I had a good background in sales. But this first role play was nervous. It was it was online. It wasn't in person. I couldn't read the emotion. It was like over a phone sort of call setting. And it was just awkward for me. And I struggled really hard with the role play. And it's something that we always speak about, me, the boys, everyone from that team, is like, does everyone remember Siona's first role play? Yeah, don't do that. Because the boys, I wasn't sure if I was going to make it, and a lot of people sort of doubted me. I'm not in a negative way or anything, but just like, oh, this guy's got a bit of work to do. And the first month was rough. After the first month, I kind of had a bit of a reflection moment with my mentor, and he kind of said to me, hey, I love how much work you're putting in, but the pace needs to pick up. It's a very high performance team that we're on, and you need to lift to those standards. Otherwise you get left behind. Makes sense. A week after having that conversation, a week went by of me, just the anxiety I felt within to perform, to be able to be better, to do better. I couldn't sleep. Because I was so scared that I was going to walk back into my 9-to-5 life. And I couldn't have that, that fear now of going back to that once having a taste of the freedom and the experience of being online. I couldn't go back. And that was painful to me, very painful. So I hustled. I didn't sleep. I was calling the boys. I was like, what can I do to improve? I was ringing up my boy Jackson. I was like, bro, how do I improve, bro? And he didn't want to give me any source. But regardless, we ended up getting to the stage where a week later from then, I hustled. I was in a lot of pain. I rung up one of the boys on the team. The reason why I rung him is he was a brown brother. So he was from NZ, he was Māori. And as being half Tongan, I felt more comfortable to speak to him. So I rang him up. I said, bro, what do I do here? The numbers are reflecting the amount of work that I'm putting in. What do I do? And the conversation he pretty much had with me was dude, don't get fucking fired. I was like, bro, whatever you do, bro, please, do not get fired. This is an awesome opportunity. And the thing is, bro, he will drop you if you're not performing. I need you to do better, pretty much. And we spoke about it, and we had a bit of a lengthy conversation around that and how we could improve. And he really helped me out with that. But that was a bit of a moment to me where it's just fuck, I need to pick my shit up. Otherwise I'm out, and people can see it around me. And that was a bit of a catalyst for change as well for me. A week later, I hit record numbers at the company and everything just switched. But it wasn't because of something that I did. It was more so the mindset of, what I was doing and that I knew where I wanted to go. And it was a delayed feedback loop of reality, actually catching up with me and all the work that I'd done.
How have every single one of those challenges, starting off from the footy career to when you went to Europe or the US, how did that curate the vision and lifestyle and dream of what you have in the future?
When I left, the vision that I had for myself, and this kind of happened way back when I first started this, and even back when I was a child growing up, was the vision that I had was that I wanted to create my own dream, my own lifestyle, and have wicked people around me doing it with me. And the internal belief that I had still, and what the reality was I was still creating someone else's dream. And if I think back to that time, back when I was a younger kid, even wanting to, I used to say to my mum when I was younger that I was going to invest in real estate and just keep buying houses so I'd live off a passive income, create my own lifestyle, and be able to look after her so she never had to work. That was one of my goals when I was a kid. And thinking back to that, it was all about creating something of my own, myself, and being able to almost give back or represent that younger version of myself. But not only that, but to help people that are in similar situations to me right now, that are in similar situations that I was in 12 months ago, feeling lost, having that feeling that you're leaving potential out on the line. I think that's like my biggest thing, and that's why I created a shift into starting up my own online business.
After experiencing and going through what you've been through and being able to get to where you want to go, what's the one piece of advice that you would give to your younger version of yourself, knowing what you know now?
It would be that no matter the fear and the doubt that you have within, you must always take the path of most resistance, because that will lead you on the right path, the path that you deserve. So no matter how hard it is, no matter how fearful you are, you must always take that path, the uncomfortable one, because that will lead you to where you need to be.